And when it breaks, you hear it right here on Joy News. This afternoon, we're just getting information from the presidency of a reshuffle that has been made, or President Akufo-Addo has made some interesting changes to his government. Remember, we're just talking about the number of ministers we have and the fact that 12 more have been appointed, being ministers and their deputies for the newly created regions. Well, this afternoon, we're learning that a number of them have been reassigned and some have been kicked out. Abban is here with me in the studio. Let's go through the list. Abban.
Right, so it's interesting to know that this just came in a few minutes ago. It's signed by the Director of Communications at the Presidency, Eugene Ahin. Right. And it reads, the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has made the following changes to the composition of his government with immediate effect. Number one, Honorable Barbara Otingyesi, she is a member of Parliament for Prestia-Huni Valley constituency, and as you know, she is the former Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. She has now been moved to the Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts and is a substantive minister in waiting. So she's a Minister-designate for Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts. Number two, Dr. Hafiz bin Salih has been nominated as Upper West Regional Minister-designate. And the former Regional Minister, Suleiman Al-Hassan, he has been reassigned.
I mean, basically, but when we hear of reassigned, it basically means that you've been dropped.
Well, sometimes that may be so, but sometimes it's also to the presidency, but with no specific role.
Well, let's finish with the list and then we can do a quick analysis.
Number three is Honorable Catherine Afeku. She is Member of Parliament for Evaluate Ajomoro Jura constituency. And as you know, the former Minister of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, she is now the Minister of State at the Office of the President, assigned to the Office of the Senior Minister. So her job has been taken up by Barbara Otingyesi, who was former Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. Number four, Gifty Chum Ampofo. She's Member of Parliament for Ibuako North constituency and a former Deputy Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection. She's now Deputy Minister for Education. And we also have Frida Prempe, who's MP for Tano North constituency and a former Deputy Minister for Works and Housing. She has now been moved to the Gender Ministry as a Deputy, so she's Deputy Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection. Barbara Ayisi Asha, who is the former Deputy Minister for Education and Member of Parliament for Cape Coast North constituency, is now Deputy Minister for Works and Housing. Exactly, and we move on. And Honorable Nana Eya, I suppose she is the new entrant here. She's a Member of Parliament for Gomoa Central constituency, and she's now Deputy Minister-designate for Lands and Natural Resources. And we also have Alex Kodowo Abban. He's MP for Gomoa West constituency and is now Deputy Minister-designate for Health. And the final one, Honorable Yao Afo, he's Member of Parliament for German South and he's now Deputy Minister-designate for Aviation. So he will be under the Aviation Minister.
Yes.
And so it reads, the President is hopeful that Parliament will expedite the vetting of the Minister-designate for Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, the Regional Minister-designate for Upper West, as well as the Deputy Ministers-designate for Aviation, Lands and Natural Resources and Health, so they can assume their respective offices as quickly as possible.
So what it basically means is that these people who have been listed here in the list, to be vetted are those who have not been vetted before. So basically new entrants. And so these people will have to be vetted by Parliament and then they will begin to work. But interestingly, I was saying earlier,
but also take number two, just before you come in, and ministers, deputy ministers, who are being moved to substantive ministries, they ought to be vetted as well.
All right. So basically, I was saying, when you look at number two, Dr. Hafiz bin Salih, who is now the Upper West Regional Minister-designate, his predecessor, Suleiman Al-Hassan, has been reassigned. And usually when you hear reassigned, because if you look at all the others that we have here, those who have been reassigned to substantive positions have been named.
So, like in the case of Catherine Afeku, who's been reassigned to the Office of the Senior Minister.
So we know that she's moving from one place to the other. But when it is not usually when it is not stated in the correspondence that this person is being moved from one place to the other and says it is the person has been reassigned, it presupposes that you've been dropped. But we'll see how it goes moving on from here. But I also noticed something very interesting since you're on the gender desk. I mean, myself and you on the gender desk, I quite interestingly noticed a number of females in this reshuffle information that we have here. I find that quite interesting. About 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them are women
out of the 9.
And only 2 are men. And I'm wondering what that trend actually means.
Well, I mean, I think it's welcome news that we are seeing more women in such positions of power. I mean, there's always been a push by gender advocates for more women to be appointed to positions of power. So this is welcoming news. And don't forget also that the president is spearheading a gender agenda.
He's the AU gender champion.
Champion, exactly. Yeah. And so maybe he brought that in consideration when he was making those appointments. Well,
interesting times ahead. And it looks, Araba, also as though one of the biggest casualty here is, you could say, Honorable Catherine Afeku, the Member of Parliament for Evaluate Jomoro, who is also the Minister for Tourism and Creative Arts. We've seen quite we've seen her quite a lot in the news.
Well, I mean, the argument a lot of her detractors say is that she is very vocal, but has very little to show for her ministry. She talks about, you know, so many activities being done or being rolled out by her ministry, and yet there's very little to show for it. For example, the theatres, which are supposed to be rolled out. You do recall in the NPP manifesto, they did promise to roll out a theatre in every region, I suppose, That is yet to be done. And every day we're getting assurances that they will be built, and we are yet to see any proof of start of work even. So I suppose that contributed to, you know, the president's decision to kick her out.
Right. We'll see how that goes. Well, she's not been kicked out completely. She's going to the presidency to be Minister of State there. And I think one of the biggest gainers here is the new entrant, Nana Eya, Member of Parliament for Gomoa Central, who is now Deputy Minister-designate for Lands and Natural Resources.
Very little is known about her, but she's obviously a Member of Parliament, Gomoa Central constituency, and exchanging, you know, the baton with Barbara Otingyesi, who used to be at the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry. So we'll see, you know, how she does at the vetting.
All right. Well, we'll see how this goes. She's now Minister-designate, Honorable Barbara Otingyesi, and I'm wondering what it is that she brings on board. It'll be interesting to hear her own thoughts and whether or not she's going to carry on from where Catherine Afeku left, or whether she's going to come on board with her own new, fresh, creative ideas. But I trust me that this is going to be the biggest conversation in the creative arts industry. They're going to be talking about it a lot. And if you know, Catherine Afeku herself has been in the news sometimes for not the very palatable reasons. I mean, you remember that there was a time where she had this interesting costume.
That was during I think that, was it the Afrima?
It was,
I think the Afrima activities.
Yeah.
Sort of see-through dress.
Well,
and well, she says tourism is not just about talking; it's also about, you know, the visual, and so she tries to represent that everywhere she goes.
I mean, I think it makes sense.
But to be fair to Catherine Afeku, last year she organized, you know, I forget the specific name, but she organized a trip for, you know, African Americans,
the Hollywood actors who came.
Hollywood actors, yes,
indeed,
exactly, indeed. And it was a big hit.
But the criticism about that was also that we spent a lot of money doing that, and people were wondering whether it was worth it.
But she's dismissed that criticism. But she says that no state resources were spent on that particular trip, and that in fact we rather benefited as a country because the Hollywood actors actually sunk in as much as, I think, almost $1 million or so. Into the economy, and so the country actually benefited.
We'll see how it goes, and expect that a lot more analysis will be coming on these names, including those that will say there is more to come and that the president isn't finished yet. Araba, thank you very much. By the way, Araba Kumsin, editor here at JoyNews. She's also on the gender desk. And that's not why she came to break the news for us, by the way. So if you know, if you didn't know, now you know. President Akufo-Addo has made some reshuffling this afternoon. We brought you the list of who is in and who is out, who is taking a bigger position, who is going lower, and some of the highlights of these people's position when they took over so far.